Hi, welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be me tier ranking everything that I've read since getting back into reading. For those who haven't seen my first video, I have only gotten back into reading around mid-2022, and even then I didn't really read that much. Overall, we have 26 books that we're gonna tier rank. Some of them are series, but I have compiled series into one book because it's just easier to rank that way. But yeah, so that's what I'm gonna do. So let's look at the tiers that I have created. I'm not gonna lie, I had a bit of a hard time coming up with names. I wanted to be cool and creative. Okay, so the first tier that we have is
spectacular. Give me 14 of them right now.
Really? Do you know what's in here?
I don't care. Don't tell me.
No.
This is a tier, of course, that's gonna be my absolutely favorite books that I have thought about for a long time after reading them, books that I have obsessed with. The second tier that we have is
okay, work.
And this tier is the books that I really enjoyed, but I felt like maybe there was something extra to bring it to the first tier. And the middle tier I named
And he told me something I will never forget. He said, shit, I forgot what he said.
This is basically things that I read and I had a okay time or a good time, but it's nothing spectacular. It's nothing that I swooned over. Basically just neutral little tier. Then I have...
Do you know you have 30 minutes?
Are you kidding me?
30, yes.
And this tier is the books that I thought were lacking a lot, and I would have liked them if they would have been written maybe a little bit different. Just the tier of could have been better. And then for the last tier we have
no.
And that's the tier that are the books that I absolutely didn't like, didn't have a good time. I have one book in this list that I have DNF'd, but I still chose to keep in this list because it was the book that inspired that tier name. Yeah, it's also going to be a tier for the authors that I chose to no longer support. You know, different people have different opinions. My opinion is that I am not separating art from the artist, and especially in books, if the artist is problematic, you will find themes and topics and things in those books relating back to the author's views. The only time that we can, maybe should, separate art from the artist is when the artist is dead and they have no way of doing harm. So that is my general opinion about this, and this is how I'm gonna be rating. So just to let you know. So yeah, let's get into it. I have a good chunk of books to rate, and we are off not to a good start. So this is all random. This is not chronological order whatsoever, but the very first book that I have is Pretty Please Me, and as I said, we're not off to a very good start because this book will have to go to... I will have to put it to Do You Know You Have 30 Minutes? And the author kind of markets themselves as, you know, writing funny little rom-coms. I did not find this funny. I found this really quite cringy.
Hi, Editing T here. I just realized that I completely managed to fumble my explanation for why I did not like this book, so I'm gonna just try to do it shortly now. First of all, the premise of the book is that we have our main female character who has had really terrible experiences being intimate with her previous partners, so she enlists her best friend or her best friend's friend, who is a pleasure dom, to help her out with it. He agrees and he takes her on as one of his subs. So that's the premise, and the plot just goes from there. I picked it up because I liked that premise and I thought it was going to be interesting. However, I was met with one-dimensional characters and just the characters that just didn't hit the mark. Specifically the main female character, it was really, really irritating how she was portrayed, because she, first of all, she's a grown woman and she has had sex multiple times before, but she is portrayed in such a like dumbed down way, so naive. She's portrayed like she's a virgin. She literally doesn't know anything about sex, and it just did not make any sense whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure a virgin knows more than she did, and that just didn't make sense. It really made me angry. And in addition to that, you just have all of these attempts at being funny that actually translates as cringe, and it was just not a good mix. At about 70% of the book, there was this scene of like singing. It was so cliche and so cringe. I nearly DNF'd then. It actually made me so angry at the time, and I honestly, I don't usually remember the plots of the books that well, but I remember the feelings, and I just remember feeling so frustrated. So that's what this book is for me. Pretty sure there are people that will find this funny and will find this entertaining, but sadly enough, this wasn't my cup of tea. So yeah, let's just get back into the main video.
The point is, I'm rambling for way too long. I did not like it all that much. That's why it's going into that tier. Then we have King of Wrath by Anna Huang. Now, hear me out. I did not enjoy this one either. It is about an arranged marriage, forced marriage. That's the trope. I found this to be quite boring at times, and also just nonsensical. The miscommunication trope, I would say, is quite prominent through this, or more so, it's not necessarily miscommunication, but it is not communication tropes. I didn't like it all that much because I just thought it was a whole lot of nothing, essentially. And for that reason, I'm gonna plop King of Wrath for Do You Know You Had 30 Minutes as well, because I had some qualms with that. It's probably a bit higher, definitely more higher than Pretty Please Me. Pretty Please Me, I'm not gonna lie, is teetering between these two, but I just don't think it's, you know, that bad. Then we have The Witch's Heart. I liked it. It was okay, but I don't remember much from what happened. So I remember enjoying it at the time. It was okay to read. I did not have any expectations going into it. This is basically a retelling of Norse mythology, I think, of Loki and, now I don't remember the name, but the witch. I found it interesting, but it was not that memorable. I think it's just a neutral stance for me on this book. Now, the next book, or the next couple of books actually, is the Ice Planet Barbarians. Look, I was curious and I picked it up, and I'm not gonna lie, I ate it up. Like the first 3 or 4 books, I ate it up, and then it became boring, obviously, because it's kind of repetitive, you know, it's the same kind of premise. One of the girls falls in love with one of the aliens, they go through their hardships, they kind of find it hard to accept their bond or whatever, blah, 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 blah. But I ate it up. I mean, it was alright. It was right at the time. I think I was in a good mood for it. I'm probably gonna put it in a neutral plane because I don't think it was nothing special. And we have Twisted Games. Twisted Games is going into okay work. So this is my favorite Anna Huang book out of every single one of those that I've read. This is a bodyguard princess love story. I don't know, I liked it. I like that type of thing. It is right up my alley. I think it's okay work. One thing worth to mention, the reason why I've gone back to Anna Huang so many times, for all the things that I don't like, I really like the way she writes banter. You know, the way her characters just go back and forth with each other. I really, really like it. I think it's really, really fun. So that is why I've read as many books as I did. And now the next book is King of Pride. Now this is the book that I will probably put in Do You Know You Have 30 Minutes? In It is a bit worse than King of Wrath, I would say. To be fair, I also don't remember much of it. I think I blocked it out. But I remember not really like feeling it all that much. And also there's a revelation that happens later in the book that was kind of like, okay, so that kind of just solves all of the problems that the main two characters have, like just like that, they're done. And yeah, I just didn't feel like it was interesting story, so it was definitely going in a lower level for me. King of Greed, it was fine. I would probably put it in the middle tier. Again, I don't remember much from it. You know what? No, I changed my mind. I'm putting it into, do you know, you have 30 minutes, because I have no recollection of what this is about. I just know that it's a marriage in shambles, essentially. You have a main male character who kind of just really ignores his wife because he's now rich and he has company to take care of, and then she kind of ends up leaving him, and then the entire book is them or him chasing her, trying to get her back. The only thing that I remember from this book is this one schmexy scene that I enjoyed, and that's it. So you know what, maybe there's a lot of things that could be improved. So yeah, I am actually adding this into Do You Know You Have 30 Minutes, and I'm keeping it in the at the top of the tier, because I think out of all the Kings of Sins books, this one is probably the best. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know anymore. Now, the next one we have is Minor Detail by Adania Shibli. This is a book that I've definitely thought a lot about since reading it. So this is a very short book. I think it's like 99 pages. I think it was a very interesting read. Very heavy as well, and quite hard, not only because of the topics, but there was actually so much minor detail in this book. I think it's an important book for everyone to read. Puts in the perspective of how it is to live in occupied Palestine, specifically in the West Bank. As the second part focuses on the woman that lives in the West Bank and is trying to come out through all of these checkpoints, leave and go visit a place where the first part of the story has taken place. It's definitely a good read. That was a bit more serious. And now we're going to the Icebreaker. Look, I know lots of people are hating it because it doesn't have a plot. And they're right. It doesn't have a plot. I read it and I ate it up and I enjoyed it in the moment. But I was also a bit baffled by the fact that this book did not follow your typical trajectory for a book where you have things building up, then, you know, climax, and things are sorted. This was just one line, essentially, with like slight things happening here and there. So, yeah, I liked it better than the King of Sins, definitely. So this is definitely going for me into the middle tier. It wasn't that terrible, so this is where I'm gonna leave it. Then we have the Mindf series. So this is 5 novellas of like small size put together into one big book. It's about a serial killer, female serial killer, who starts dating a cop that's trying to catch her, essentially, and she has this big revenge plot planned for something that happened in her past. So this book I enjoyed overall. In my opinion, you do kind of have to suspend your belief a little bit. The very last scene, the big revenge scene, seemed kind of cartoonish a little bit, which is whatever, but I don't know, it worked for me in the moment. I just would like to pretend that the epilogue didn't happen. So I don't want to spoil or anything, so I'm not gonna, you know, give details, but there's some very abhorrent bisexual representation in the epilogue. Boy, did not like it. It actually left a sour taste in my mouth. But overall, I think Mindf series can go to the middle tier. It was okay time. It was a good time. Now we have The House in the Cerulean Sea, and that goes for oh no. I actually had a good time reading this, and then I learned the inspiration behind this book. Not gonna talk about here, easily to Google. You can actually find the interview with the author. But yeah, found out the inspiration, and I cannot unsee a lot of things after reading about that inspiration. And especially I cannot unsee that white savior complex in the book. So this author I will not read again. So it's going into Oh No, and we have our first visitor to this tier. Now, the next series is The Cruel Prince. I've actually read all 3 books. Did not read any extras, so I read the main trilogy. It was a good time. I'm gonna put it in okay work because it was a good time. Now, have I gone into reading this with different expectations? It might have even been in the top tier, but I've gone into this expecting romance. Again, it's my own issue for not doing my own research, obviously. I was on a book hungover from the previous series that I've read, and I was looking for that romance to fill myself up with. And on the social media platform that I was at the time, everybody was talking about The Cruel Prince and about Carlton and Jude, and I thought there was going to be this great love story, or more so this romance focused, you know, book and trilogy, but it wasn't. It's a political intrigue. You have lots of plotting, lots of things happening, this intricate world built, and it's great. It's great, but it was not what I was expecting, so I was kind of left a little bit disappointed. However, I ended up finishing all 3 books, and I thought it was a cool story. I thought it was good, and I really like main female character who is a no damsel in distress. So basically Jude, throughout the entire trilogy, she's the mastermind for everything, and she knows how to fight, she knows her things, so I really enjoy that. Now the next one, we have Kingdom of the Wicked trilogy by Kerri Maniscalco. I don't know how to rate this, and let me explain why I don't know how to rate this. This is the book that got me back into reading. So this is the book that I picked up on the beach in Greece, and I started reading it because I was bored, there was nothing to do, and I ended up loving it. So I know that objectively there's quite a bit of criticism online about the series and plot holes and stuff like that, and I can agree with it, really. But this is holding a dear spot in my heart because this is something that brought me back to books. And I think I would want to put this in okay work. I think not the very front of okay work, maybe the very back, but this is where we're gonna put this one right here. So yeah. Okay, the next we have The Devil You Know. This is like brother's best friend romance. I got this book on Stuff Your Kindle Day, I think, so it was for free. I don't know. I enjoyed it, but I also did not enjoy it. So there was like a lot of miscommunication. I think the trope is miscommunication, because you have 2 people that have gone into this agreement to have sex lessons or whatever, and then they fall in love, but then they fool themselves and each other that they don't have feelings for each other. It gets old, especially when a book is long, and I think this book could have been like 100 pages shorter because there was so much going back and forth and around, and like it was just so much that I was so annoyed. I remember just one emotion going through me, and that was constant annoyance. Yeah, I think this is going to be, for me, in the do you know you have 30 minutes. It didn't annoy me as much as Pretty Please Me, but it was damn near that, so it's going into that tier. Now the next book that we have is Fourth Wing. It's going to Oh No. This book I initially read and it was okay, but there's just a lot of controversy online about the author, and I just cannot be bothered to continue reading from this author. The next book we have is For the Wolf. I'm gonna put this in the middle tier after The Witch's Heart. Yeah, I think that's the right place for it. I don't even know how to summarize the plot. Basically, this is about two twin daughters living in this small village, according to the legends, I guess, or like the way the tradition goes in their town. One daughter is for the wall, the other one is for the throne. So basically one of the twins goes and rules within their place, and the other one is sent into the woods to be with the wolf. And the wolf is not actually an animal, it's a man that lives and guards this forest. The story itself is not bad at all. I found myself maybe slightly bored reading it. I finished it, it was okay, but I ended up just taking too long of a pause after reading this book, so I never read the second book in the duology. And when I finally started to pick it up again, it was too late. I was just not interested anymore. So technically it's a DNF series, but I have finished the first book, and the first book is just gonna stay in this tier. Okay, the next book is Den of Vipers, and this is the book that I have DNF'd. This is the book that I have DNF'd 20% in. Gosh, I don't want to be mean. I feel like I'm being mean in this video. This is like what a 13-year-old would write on Wattpad. I just can't believe this is a published book. So I picked it up when I just gotten into a book talk space, and obviously everybody knows on book talk you kind of need to take your time curating your For You page. That was the very beginning. I saw this, I saw the premise, and look, I have read Wattpad myself, I have been on fanfics, so by all means, I'm not against the actual premise of the story. I was like, look, you know, it could be fun. I did not expect to be met with such anger while reading it, because there's so many mistakes, so many editing mistakes, so many repeating monologues. You have 5 POVs in this book, and they all repeat the same thing. This book could have been so much shorter if you just cut out all of the repeating parts. And on top of that, I just had to put it down when it was just seeping with misogyny. One of the characters apparently was hurt by a woman, and then every single time you read his POV, the way he talks about women around him, like if he's in the bar, right, and there's like women trying to approach him, to flirt with him, the way he talks about them is in such a like degrading way. I just could not deal. So I DNF'd, and technically, I don't know if it counts, I read it, but I really wanted to include and hopefully warn some people off, because pretty sure there are better written books with the same premise, with the same you know, why choose romance, where you don't have to deal with all of the additional things. Now the next book is the book that put me in the reading slump. It's going into spectacular, give me 14 of them, because it is a book that I think about a lot. It's the book that I just lay in bed and sometimes it just pops back into my head. It is a book I think that is important, but it is very heavy. It is very heavy and it can be really triggering. It was hard to read at times. I tend to finish a book in like 2-3 days, depending on the length. This one, I think it took me about a week to finish because I had to constantly close it and put it away. The reason why I'm putting this into spectacular is because I think the author has done such a great job at showing what it feels like to be groomed. I felt like I was being groomed through this book. I felt the frustration. This is going into the top tier. This is something that has not left my mind, and I think this is something that people should definitely read. But if you plan to read this, read the trigger warnings and be prepared for some disturbing themes and disturbing things to happen on page. Next one, we have the All for the Game series. It is going into the top tier. It is going into the top tier. I know objectively this is not the best literary work out there, by all means, but was I obsessed? My friend forced me to read the series, and I don't know whether I love her or hate her for it. I read this in January this year. When I tell you that since reading this series, I have thought about it more than I haven't thought about it. you have to suspend your belief a little bit. It's about imaginary sport, it's about mafia, it's about, you know, it's not very realistic, and it has very heavy themes. And definitely look up trigger warnings if you plan to read this. I feel like maybe some aspects are not that carefully dealt with of this book, especially the triggering aspects and mental health. So there are criticisms, you know, that are very valid. But my God, does this author write such good characters? These characters, every single one of them is imperfect. And you hate them, and you like them, and then you hate them, and you like them, and you go through all of this turmoil. When I finished this book series initially, I ended up rating it quite low. I was like, okay, this, just objectively thinking, is, you know, the themes are not dealt that well with. But tell me why. 2 weeks later, I was still obsessed. I started looking up fanfics. I started reading so much. I even like found the document with extra content where the author has answered questions and like, you know, brought more lore about her characters. I know I'm yapping a lot right now, but this series has been my personality since like January. I simply cannot put them any lower. I also understand it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, so by all means, if the premise doesn't sound good, don't read it. Don't read it. Not for everyone. It is not for everyone. It does very much read like a fanfic of itself. So just like a big disclaimer for everyone before, you know, you pick it up based on my rating and then suddenly you don't like it, you know. Don't come blaming me. It might not be for everyone, but it was definitely for me, and I'm obsessed, and that's that. I also put the Sunshine Court in this. This is technically part of All for the Game series, but it's like a trilogy of itself. It was just announced by the author that it's actually gonna be a trilogy. So yeah, 2 more books are coming out. They're not out yet. Very excited. But this is also going into the top tier. This is my opinion. Don't come for me, please. The next, we have the Haunting and Hunting Adeline duology. The only thing that I can say is curiosity killed the cat. I'm the cat and I am dead. I was curious and I was like, it cannot be this bad. It was this bad. The second book, Haunting Adeline, I have definitely skipped the first half of it a lot. That was like skipping pages because I could not just read pure torture corn. I just don't get it. And from what I have seen others talk about on TikTok about dark romance, it is not necessarily what dark romance is supposed to be about, because this was very much essay. Like, yes, author has argued like with the, you know, inner monologue of the main character that she wanted it, but it was very much giving essay, and I thought that this is what all of the dark romance is about. And apparently, according to the discourse on TikTok, it is not what the dark romance is supposed to be about. So actually, if anyone's still watching this far into the video, if you have any recommendations for a dark romance that just properly portrays what dark romance is supposed to be, do let me know. I might give it a chance, actually. I might do a video of reading dark romance. The next one is Shadow and Bone. So Shadow and Bone is going into, for me, it's going into... And he told me something I will never forget. Shit, I forgot. Because I read the first book and I forgot the rest of the series. I forgot to read the rest of the series. So that's where it's going. I think it's the same story as For the Wolf. I kind of waited a bit too long before going back towards the series, and then I just couldn't do it anymore. And for the longest time, I was actually delaying our next book, Six of Crows, because I wanted to finish Shadow and Bone, until my friend was like, look, you don't really need to finish Shadow and Bone to read Six of Crows. So I just left it, and I read the summary and everything, and from what I read, I don't think I missed out on a lot. It was okay when I read it, but I don't really remember much. The next, Six of Crows, I think I'm gonna put it in okay work. It was really good. I really enjoyed it, I'm not gonna lie. But I don't know. I feel like I didn't really think much about it after finishing it. It's not something that was stuck in my head for a long time. I kind of expected it to be, because I was having a really good time reading it, but I didn't really think that much about it. And I think it could have been because I was just coming off from another wave of obsessing over the game series, so it could be that I just jumped right back to my comfort characters. It's okay work, it's good, but it's gonna stay in this tier. Okay, so we only have 3 works left. I'm filming for almost an hour, so I've been yapping. But the next trilogy is Caraval. Caraval is gonna go to... And he told me something I will never forget. I forgot. It's probably gonna be at the top. I don't remember much from it. I only remember that by the 3rd book I was slightly disappointed because I had questions that were not answered for me. And it's gonna be the same for Once Upon a Broken Heart. I'm even debating to pump Once Upon a Broken Heart at the very back of this, to be fair. Because the same as with Caraval, the 3rd book disappointed me. It so disappointed me. I felt there was so much that was not answered, so much that just was lacking, some characters that were not addressed, that were prominent in the previous books. I think the 3rd book was rushed in Once Upon a Broken Heart series. I have some bones to pick with both these trilogies, so they're going into my 3rd tier. And finally, the very last one, we have The Invisible Adeline. And what a great way to finish this series, because this is the top tier. This is the book that I cried reading. And I know there are people who have very valid criticisms of this book and about the way the character was written and all of the things lacking, but this was my very first 5-star rated book ever since I've gotten back into reading and started my rating system. So this is a book that I will probably always hold very dear and close to my heart, and I really enjoyed it. I really liked it. I really liked the prose. I liked the writing style of this author and just the storyline, the way it progressed. And I'm an enemies to lovers girly, and I was rooting for a certain couple to happen, but what happened in the end, I loved it even more. I know I've seen also other people debating about the ending and how they didn't like it, but I thought the ending was perfect. This is top tier. This is the very start of the top tier, and yeah. Looking through my tiers, I feel like maybe Kingdom of the Wicked sticks out like a sore thumb a little bit in okay work section, but I'm gonna keep it there. I'm gonna keep it there. It brought me back into reading. I'm gonna keep it there. I might do a reread and then redecide what I think, but for now I'm gonna keep it in the okay work tier.
Editing tea here again. I realized after finishing that video that I have actually not rearranged some tiers in a way that makes sense. So I'm just gonna quickly do that now and explain, I guess. So one of the main things immediately that really made me just go whoa, whoa, whoa is the fact that Twisted Games is at the very front of this tier. So technically, this is definitely before Kingdom of the Wicked. Cruel Prince is the top of this tier. The reason for that is because Six of Crows, I've decided to move up to the main tier, the god tier, if you will. I watched back my explanation for why I put this book in the second best tier, and it was just not a good enough explanation. Like, okay, I didn't think that much about it, but it was still really good and I had a really, really great time with it. So it only makes sense, at least in my brain right now, to keep Six of Crows in this top tier. Then okay work is looking just as I want it to look like. Then here I saw the Ice Planet Barbarians and I was like, hello, no, really not. Don't know how I put it. I think I might put them before the Mindf series, but yeah, I like this look better. I'm keeping Once Upon a Broken Heart here just because I am a very, very petty person, and that third book was such a disappointment. I just have to leave it there. And now that I'm just thinking about it, I think I was just slightly more entertained reading Icebreaker than I was For the Wolf. Purely, I think, because I just don't remember For the Wolf that much. But yeah, this just makes sense to me right now. This tier is looking just as it's supposed to look, at least, I think. And the very last tier, I am so conflicted because I don't know, between these two, Haunting Adeline and Den of Vipers, I don't know which one of them is last. Like, the part where I DNF'd Den of Vipers, that part was also not consensual. But this entire book is literally not consensual, so it's very hard. But I think maybe, yeah, just the lack of consent severely is gonna drag Haunting Adeline at the very end of this tier. But yeah, I think this is my final verdict, and I'm just gonna leave it like this.
Yeah, as you can see, it's not that many books that I've read, and it's not very big in variety of genres, so I hope that's something I can change throughout the progression of this channel. But yeah, this is what I read and this is what I rated. Let me know what you think. If you have made this far into the video, let me know what you think. Let me know if you've read any of these books and if our opinions match up in any way, shape, or form. I also don't mind hearing, you know, negative opinions on the works that I read and enjoyed. I think it tends to put a new perspective on the work that I might not have had myself, coming from, you know, the background that I do. But yeah, this is all for the video. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying this long. Hopefully I'll see you soon at the next time. Bye.